we hear us on the radio?
Yeah, sure thing.
All you ladies pop your pussy like this.
Alright, Ellie Williams from The Last of Us video game is not immune to Cordyceps, and yep, she cannot pass her immunity to offspring. Period. Now that I made this pretentious statement, let's break it down. First, let's clear up some basic immunology concepts that people often confuse. Here is a misconception. Many people confuse having an immune response with actually being immune, but those are not the same thing. An immune response simply means your body recognizes a threat and reacts to it. It starts fighting back, activating cells, producing antibodies, doing everything it can. But being immune means something stronger. It means your body can effectively control or eliminate the pathogen so you can stay healthy. In other words, a response doesn't guarantee protection. Your body can fight and still lose. Only when it consistently wins do we call that being immune. Take human immunodeficiency virus. When HIV attacks, the immune system recognizes viral proteins and start producing antibodies, immunoglobulin G and M. But we know how this goes. HIV sneaks past defenses, and without proper medication, it's a death sentence. Are people with HIV who generate an immune response actually immune? No. Same with Ebola. A person may mount an immune response, but if they die, were they truly immune? No. Being immune means your system can neutralize or suppress the pathogen, keeping you alive and healthy. Put simply, an immune response is your body recognizing the enemy and picking up a weapon. Being immune means it actually hit the target and takes the threat down.
Hurensohn, jetzt weiß ich, warum du so rumleckst und du Hex. Du kleiner, verfickter Hurensohn, geh deine Mutter ficken!
Now, many of you have probably heard about people describing the media as being immune to HIV, right? Well, that's not exactly correct. What's often called HIV immunity is actually resistance, not immunity. So how does it work? Some people are born with homozygous CCR5 delta 30T mutation. Imagine this. A person has unprotected contact with an HIV-positive individual. The virus tries to enter the host cell. To do that, HIV uses a protein called GP120. Under normal circumstances, GP120 binds to the CD4 receptor on T cells and then uses CCR5 as co-receptor to gain entry.
What? Bro, what are you talking about, man?
Simply put, GP120 is the key and CCR5 is part of the lock. But in individuals with CCR5 mutation, the lock is altered. The K no longer fits, HIV can't properly enter the cell, and since it can't survive long outside host cells, it cannot establish infection and gradually loses viability. Here's the important question. Is the immune system involved here? Not really. The classical adaptive immune response is not the main factor here. The virus never enters the cell, so it's not properly presented to T or B cells. There's no meaningful recognition, no activation, no classical immune response, no antibodies, no adaptive response, none of the usual players. This isn't the immune system defeating the virus. This is the virus failing to even start the fight. That's why scientists don't call this immunity. They call it resistance to HIV infection. What we learn from this is simple. Resistance to pathogens can come not only from classical immune system, but also from other biological mechanisms. And this is exactly where Ellie Williams becomes interesting, because in her case, we are likely dealing with something entirely different. Let's look at the famous surgeon's recorder found in the Firefly lab in the first game.
April 28th. Marlene was right. The girl's infection is like nothing I've ever seen. The cause of her immunity is uncertain. As we've seen in all past cases, the antigenic titers of the patient's cordyceps remain high in both the serum and the cerebrospinal fluid. Blood cultures taken from the patient rapidly grow cordyceps and fungal media in the lab. However, white blood cell lines, including percentages and absolute counts, are completely normal. There is no elevation of pro-inflammatory cytokines, and an MRI of the brain shows no evidence of fungal growth in the limbic regions, which would normally accompany the prodrome of aggression in infected patients. We must find a way to replicate this state under laboratory conditions.
This entry explains why there's so much confusion and speculation about other immune characters in the game. Many people assume that the Fireflies experimented on the other immune individuals, but according to the lore, Ellie Williams is currently the only known immune person. Jerry Anderson was comparing Ellie to other infected patients, not to other immune people. In regular Cordyceps-infected patients, antigenic titers are high in both serum and cerebrospinal fluid. Antigens are molecules from a pathogen, in this case Cordyceps, that the immune system recognizes as non-self. Think of them as, I don't know, biological ID tags. Detecting them in blood usually suggests that the pathogen or its fragments are present, though context matters. But in Ellie's case, she shows no periclinical sign of active infection, no high antigen titers, normal white blood cell count, no pro-inflammatory cytokine elevation, and no sign of zombification. Clinically and paraclinically, Ellie appears healthy. So why does Jerry still consider her infected? Because when they took her blood and cultured it, Cordyceps rapidly grew. In other words, the fungus is still present in her body, even though standard tests shows nothing. This is one of the reasons why Fedra scanner flagged her as infected.
Jesus Christ. Marlene set us up? Why the hell are we smuggling an infected girl?
I'm not infected.
No? Just lying?
I can explain.
You better explain fast.
These findings, along with the localized fungal mass in her brain, suggest that something in Ellie's body is constantly suppressing the cordyceps responsible for zombification. We assume this suppression is continuous because the fungus begins growing again as soon as blood is taken outside her body. Based on in-game information, our working hypothesis is Ellie has a fungal mass in her brain, possibly a different cordyceps strain or a mutated version that constantly suppresses the original zombifying cordyceps. This is why Jerry considered a craniotomy. The source of Ellie's immunity does not seem to be genetic or from her immune system, but rather from this specific fungal strain. Now, why wouldn't Ellie Williams be considered immune in classical medicine? Look, according to the game, her body did not mount a classical immune response. Cordyceps easily crossed the species barrier. In normal circumstances, her innate and adaptive immunity would fail just like everyone else. The only thing protecting her from zombification is another fungus that constantly suppresses cordyceps. This situation is similar to HIV-positive people on antiretroviral therapy. As long as they follow their treatment, which blocks the virus from entering cells, prevents genome integration, stops assembly, halts replication, HIV is trapped, silent, and harmless. The virus isn't killed, it's controlled. For HIV, this usually requires drugs like tenofovir plus lamivudine, for example. In Ellie's case, that control system is a fungal mass in her brain. So, as I mentioned before, do we call HIV-positive patients who achieve viral suppression immune? No. By the same logic, calling Ellie immune to cordyceps is also incorrect. Her immune system has nothing to do with it. Is she cordyceps resistant, like people with CCR5 mutation? Also no, there is no evidence for that in the game. A more accurate term would be Cordyceps-protected. She has a foreign living organism in her brain that continuously suppresses cordyceps and delays zombification. If the fungal mass were killed by, radiation or removed, she would instantly transform into a zombie. Even if a craniotomy were successful and she survived the surgery, the outcome would still be grim, because her protection depends entirely on that fungal mass. Now that we clear that up, let's debunk a common misconception. The only ethical way to make humanity immune to cordyceps is to let Ellie have kids and pass on her immunity. No, that's false. For example, if two parents have homozygous CCR5 mutations, their child will be 100% HIV resistant because this immunity is built into their genes. But if the mother has developed immunity to chickenpox or hepatitis A, her child will not automatically be immune. The child must develop their own immune response. Ellie is a truly unique case. She cannot pass her fungal brain tumor to her children. She is once again biologically dependent on another organism, one she had the misfortune to contract, and that has brought her nothing but psychological trauma and pain. And again, this is exactly why Jerry Anderson wanted to perform a craniotomy. The real hope for humanity is not Ellie Williams, it's the fungus inside her brain. Thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, feel free to hit the like button and subscribe. Also share your theories about Ellie's immunity. I really love to read them. Bye.